evening and welcome back. So, finally, it's admitted, as thousands of coronavirus deaths will be wiped off the government's official toll after urgent review into counting fiasco that included people who had recovered and died of other causes in the toll. And I know I've mentioned that before, but it hadn't come out as an official statement since then, but now it has. What that means is that if you were diagnosed with coronavirus in whatever way they sought to diagnose you, however long ago it was, weeks ago, months ago, and you have since recovered and then died of something totally unrelated, you would still be a coronavirus death. Which means, of course, that however many people were infected or recorded to be infected at any one time will be the death toll. Because the numbers can only go up, they cannot go down. This, of course, means that we do not get an accurate depiction of how many people are surviving, how many people are being cured, if you will, or just recovering from the virus, and instead it is literally a death sentence for everybody, because, believe it or not, everyone's gonna die at some point, and if you've ever been thought to have had coronavirus, then that will be the reason. And we've seen a similar thing with people who have died in car accidents. They say, well, the car accident killed them. It's like, well, yes, however, it's because they had coronavirus that it caused them to have the accident in the first place. Therefore, coronavirus is the reason they died, not the car accident. So they're trying to make these numbers any way they will. But you might be wondering, why are they coming out with this now? Well, I would say it's because of the concern of there being a second wave, suggesting that their lockdown measures were utterly useless, that they want to say, oh no. You see, these 4,000 deaths, which about 10%, that we're going to remove from the COVID death toll, and now add up to the other numbers to make it look more in line with previous years, they're only going to be looking at the recent ones and not the ones from the past few months. So they're going to ignore the fact that the lockdown was ineffective. But what they're going to focus on instead is saying, well, yeah, actually there aren't as many deaths now from coronavirus as we thought there were, and that is clearly solely down to the lockdown. Let's ignore the fact that other countries like Japan or Sweden didn't bother with such a big lockdown, and they haven't been hit nearly as hard as the rest of us have. In which case, maybe there was something to this herd immunity game all along. But I guess only time will tell. As they say, Public Health England was miscounting coronavirus death, official review found. Counted victims if they died from any cause months later after beating disease. And could see up to 4,000 deaths removed from overall death toll, or 10%. And believe it or not, this has actually come out of Oxford University, so well done to them. They've said it would have meant that technically no one could ever recover from the virus, and all 265,000 of England's confirmed patients would eventually have had their deaths attributed to the disease. Now, I think this is only the first step, really, because obviously you've got this, which is definitely worth noting, but hopefully it arouses enough suspicion to think, well, how many of the other deaths that we thought were because of coronavirus are actually because of coronavirus? And it could, hopefully, lead to question, well, okay, if there were comorbidities and a couple of things people could have died from, and they died from something while having coronavirus, is it necessarily that it's the coronavirus that killed them? And as I've said before, the average age of death for anybody dying from coronavirus is beyond the average life expectancy. So without being too morbid, almost as if you're living on borrowed time, if you will, that in line with the statistics, you should be dead by now. But you're still living. So something's going to wipe you out pretty soon, and you happen to get coronavirus at the same time. You've probably got some other illnesses already, and therefore you die. And yes, it is always a tragedy when somebody dies, but it's also always true that people are going to die. But just to name and praise, the statistical flaw was uncovered by Oxford University's Professor Carl Hennigan and Dr. Yoon Loke from the University of East Anglia. So, Oxford, as well as University of East Anglia. Professor Hennigan directed the Centre for Evidence-Based Medicine, which you shouldn't really need there. The Centre for True Facts. Yes. But I repeat myself. At the prestigious university told The Sun, it is a sensible decision. There was no point attributing deaths to COVID 28 days after infection. That is how long they say in terms of the recovery. All they say is all it does is muddy the water. While deaths are falling in Scotland, Public Health England data suggests matters are worse in England. But if it's someone who picked up the virus in a care home in March and recovered and last week died of a heart attack, what does that actually tell us? He added, if deaths are going down, great, and if they are up, then we need to act. But at the moment, the figures are just confusing. And that's precisely it. You cannot build anything if you don't know what's going on. You need accurate data to make any decisions, and that is what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. Not only what can be done about coronavirus, but does anything need to happen about coronavirus? But let me know what you guys think down below. If you think it will actually drop by 4,000, or if there are going to be other extenuating factors that are going to cause it to drop more. Always intrigued to hear what you guys have to say. But until next time, as always, have a good one.